you're watching this and your goal is to be a great scorer, like somebody who can absolutely fill out the scorebook, my goal is to show you exactly how to do that in this video now. There's a lot of stuff out there about how to score more points, how to score X amount of points, how to do this, how to do that. Specifically, if I had a player ask me, hey, coach, how do I become a 20 points per game scorer? This is the exact advice I would give them. And stay tuned until the end of this because I'm going to give you the exact framework that you can follow to be able to reach your scoring goals. And I'm also going to go through the exact micro skills that you need to add to your game if you want to give yourself a chance of being an elite scorer. This might be the most powerful thing you've ever watched or listened to about scoring. I think it's going to absolutely transform your game. Let's get into it. So let's talk about the first thing, because a lot of people talk about this topic and they don't really speak about the elephant in the room, which is that scoring 20 points per game is an incredibly difficult thing to do, right? Not every player is capable of doing it, which is why it's an accomplishment, because it's really hard to do. I'm specifically talking about the high school, college level. It's very difficult to do. When I think about the teams I've been involved with, there's only a handful, less than a handful of guys who have touched 20 points per game, because it's incredibly difficult to do that. To be able to consistently score at a high level when you don't have a lot of time to do it in a high school game, even in a college game, there's not a ton of time to do it. It's hard. It's really, really hard to do. So I want to speak on that off the bat, just so that we understand where I'm coming from and you'll understand a lot better the points that I make. But it's really hard to do this if you are not super efficient. So the first thing that we have to understand is that to be a 20 points per game scorer, you have to be really efficient with how you score. You're not going to have a ton of volume. Even if you're the number one player on your team, there's not enough minutes in a game, there's not enough possessions in a game for this to be an easy thing to do if you aren't efficient. So the first goal we got to have is efficiency. And the thing that's important to understand about being a high-level scorer, being somebody who can put up 20 a game, is you have to be elite at something. There's got to be something in your game that's elite. It's a non-negotiable. Again, in just the cases that I've seen, it's not good enough for you to be decent at a lot of things or pretty good at a lot of things. You've got to be elite at something. And I want to go through 3 areas specifically that you can build on. And if you're elite in one of these areas, then you're going to be able to push that, right? Or at least give yourself a chance to push that 20 points per game mark. And first 2 pretty obvious, but first one is height, right? If you have a lot of height or size or strength, that is going to give you an advantage in a lot of matchups, and it's going to make it easier for you to accomplish that, right? So obviously, if that's your thing, if you have height, like, you got to find ways to use that to your advantage. The other thing is athleticism. So if you're a great athlete, I'm going to tie that into just being able to drive to the basket, right? Just being quicker than people, being explosive, these sorts of things. Maybe you can jump high, you can finish up above the rim. Like, if you have those athletic qualities, then again, that's another area that if you're elite in that, that's something that you can look to just build on. And hey, listen, this is the type of player that I am, and this is how I'm going to do it. And it's because I have this skill that's elite. And if that's athleticism, another area that absolutely can help you. Obviously, a lot of it is natural when it comes to just athleticism, but you can obviously improve that for sure, right? So can you either, maybe you naturally just have that, maybe it's just God given to you, or you work for it, but are you elite in that area? The third area that you can be elite in is shooting the ball or shot making in general. So if you're just a catch and shoot 3 guy, but you're elite at that, that's something that you can use. If you're somebody who just can get buckets, right? You just can, from wherever, from mid-range, from 3, floaters, from that kind of in-between area. Like, if you're capable of doing that, then that gives you another category that you can build on and say, this is my thing, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to double down on, and this is how I'm going to become that. Those are really the 3 big areas that you have to be elite in at least one of those things if you want to be somebody who can put up 20 a game. If you're not, then you won't do it. It's just not the thing. So if you don't have any size and you're not that athletic, then you better learn how to make shots at an elite level, right? And if you have multiple of these things, obviously when you have height, you have athleticism, and you can shoot the ball, you get Kevin Durant, right? Like, you can certainly mold into, if you have more than one of these things, like, the sky is the limit for them, but you've got to have at least one. So you've got to be elite in at least one of these areas. Let's talk about the actual process of this, though, right? We got that off the bat. Scoring 20 games is hard, and it requires you to be elite at something. So how do we actually do this? Well, the first thing to understand is that you have to be able to make the simple plays. People think of somebody who scores 20 a game, and they think that they have to be this crazy, flashy person with the ball who is super ball dominant and is always, getting to these 5, 7, 10 dribble combos and everything they do is a highlight. That's not at all what it's about, right? Again, the players I've been around who have averaged 20 a game, that's not the majority of what they do. The majority of what they do is really, really simple. They play to their strength. Again, if they're elite in a certain area, they just play to that, right? Like maybe they're a great shooter. They just make open shots, but they make it at a higher clip than everybody else does, so they score more. Maybe they have length or they have size, so they're scoring 8 points a game off offensive rebounds. There's these certain things that they play to, and not everything is a highlight. And actually, you got to get away from the mindset that you need to be a highlight sort of player to be able to score a lot of points. You don't need to do that because, like I said, this is not in order to score 20 points per game. That's their goal, right? To be somebody who averages that. That means, as an average, you have to consistently do that. And to consistently do that, it requires you to be able to put up that sort of performance night in, night out. So you're not going to be able to rely on flashy plays, highlight plays, because those are so much more volatile. Like, you're not going to be able to recreate that as often as somebody drives, they kick it out to me. Can I make this catch and shoot three? Really simple play that happens dozens, if not hundreds of times throughout a game. So can you be successful in those simple moments? And if you can, then you're probably going to give yourself a chance to be a really good scorer. And I think it's really important that you can do those simple things at a consistently elite level if you want to be somebody who scores a lot of points. So, like I said, making a catch and shoot three off of a driving kick. Really simple. Like, can you do that? That to me is like, if you can't do that, it's going to be tough to score a lot of points. Being able to attack closeouts at an elite level and get to the rim. So understanding, hey, this person is closing out towards me and they're not going to be able to stop in time. So, okay, I can go by them. And I just talked about this a lot in my previous podcast episode, but being able to read that defender coming to you. Do I have the open shot? No, I don't. They're closing out. They're too close to me. Okay, well, now I can drive by, get to the rim, and I understand how to exploit those opportunities at an elite level. And maybe that plays to my athleticism, right? Where, okay, I can really get to the rim and I have an advantage. But you have to be able to be good at these things. You running hard in transition and just scoring your points off that. Can you be elite in a simple area like that? I think it's really important that you get away from thinking that this requires you to be some sort of highlight machine and just understand that you have to be elite when it comes to this very simple things that happen every single possession. Because in order to score 20 a game, you've got to be efficient and you've got to be able to take advantage of as many opportunities as you can. So you've got to be great at the stuff that happens a lot. And that's catch and shoot threes, attacking closeouts, simple drives to the basket, transition points, stuff like that. So that's really important to understand, is that simple, be elite in the simple things that happen a lot. The second thing that you have to understand is that you can't try to be somebody else. This is an area that I see a lot of players mess up in, is that they see somebody else score points in a certain way. They see this player and, they average 22 a game and they think, oh, okay, now I've just got to do what they do. And that's the only way to be able to score 20 points per game. Maybe it's somebody that they watch online or somebody that they play against, somebody that's one of their teammates, and they think they have to copy that person and be them and have that exact same type of game in order to be able to accomplish those results. When in reality, the person you're watching is 7 inches taller than you and a better athlete. So you're not going to be able to do what they do and be successful with it. You're going to have to find a way that plays to your own strengths. So ask yourself, what strengths do I have? And once you know that, and that can also be helpful to ask your coaches that. Once you understand that, play to that. Like, go hard after that. Be elite in whatever that area may be, and that's going to get you wildly greater results than you trying to copy and be somebody else who you're not. That's going to leave you with a lot of frustration. You're going to just be banging your head against the wall over and over and over again because it's not working out for you, because you're a different player. You got to know what you're good at, and you got to really double down on doing that at a super, super high level, right? Huge mistake that I see. So let's talk about just a framework. And you maybe have seen stuff like this before, but I kind of want to break down, just make it as simple as possible so you can start to think of the game in a certain way. But if we look at 20 points, right, and we break that down into like throughout a game, how do we actually get to that? So let's say we make 2 threes, right? There's 6 points right there. Say we pull an offensive rebound, get a putback, there's another 2 points. Now we've got 8 right there. Then let's say we have 2 attacks versus aggressive closeouts, get to layups or floaters, whatever. Add 4 more to that. Now we've got 12 right there. Then we've got, let's say, 2 transition layups. Okay, now we've got 16. And then let's say we get fouled. We have 2 free throws. We hit them both, right? Or maybe, you get fouled 2 times and, you shoot 50%, whatever. We'll say on average you shoot 75%. So let's just say this game, though, you went 2 for 2. Okay, now we're at 18. And then we just say one more just miscellaneous thing. So this could be, maybe you score, maybe you hit another 3 and we're at 21. Or you get another transition bucket and there's 20 right there. You pull 2 offensive rebounds and there's another one right there. Or you attack 3 closeouts, whatever. Any other way that you score just another time, now we're at 20 or 21 right there. So when you break it down, it's much more attainable, right? It seems much more attainable. But this is where you kind of, again, have to look at what do I do well, what opportunities do I have, and where can I take advantage of these things? So that way you're going into games like understanding what opportunities are probably going to present themselves and what you need to take advantage of, specifically for you and what you're good at. So if you're somebody who's a great shooter, and you maybe have a green light where you can shoot a lot, maybe your goal is to hit 3 threes a game. And you know that defenses are going to close out aggressively on you to take away your 3, so you know that you're going to have closeouts to attack, and you can get to mid-range pull-ups or you can get to the basket or whatever. Like, you've got to kind of understand what your style of play is and how the math actually works out for that right there. And then it also gives you an opportunity to just like think the game at a deeper level too. So if I know that I'm playing against, you have an opponent coming up, can you watch their film, see how they defend, see what they give up? If maybe you play a team twice, right? Go back and you watch the game against the team the first time, you see what you did well, maybe opportunities that you missed, and now next time you're much more prepared going into it, right? Again, to be somebody who scores 20 a game or scores a lot of points per game, like, you have to be really efficient with what you do, and you have to make the most of your opportunity. So it's important that you think the game this way. Like, you think the game in terms of opportunities and taking advantage of them. Okay, did I take advantage of all my opportunities today, or did I miss some? Right? Because again, I don't have a lot of time to be missing stuff. I've got to be great at it. So something for you to think about right there. I want to get into micro skills right here, and just areas that are really important for you to be great at if you want to be good enough to score 20 a game, or just whatever your scoring goal may be. Again, this is a very difficult thing to do. Most players never touch 20 a game. It's hard to do. So here are some things that are really important for you to have. And again, depending on your play style, some will be more important than others. But here's just a few things for you to think about, for you to add to your game, for you to ask yourself, do I have this? And if you don't, add this, and it's something that's going to be able to help push you towards that goal. First, let's talk ball handling, micro skills that matter. So ball control, first part of ball handling that matters, just are you able to move the ball where you want it? Can you manipulate it and do what you want with the basketball and not be limited by your lack of ball control? So there's that first thing. Pace change. This matters a ton, especially if you're a guard, especially if you're a smaller guard or you use a lot of ball screens. Can you play slow when you want to and play fast when you want to? Can you control that? Can you control that speed change? Are you able to relax and get your defender to relax and then hit that 100% and, exploit those opportunities when they come as well? So being able to play with at different paces is super important to have as a ball handler as well. Ball control at your top speed. So when I really have to go, is the ball a limiting factor for me, or can I move how I need to? Can I go as fast as I need to? And the ball is always with me, like it's like a string. It's always connected, and I'm not limited based on my level of control. So controlling the ball, but not just that, controlling it at your highest speed as well. Can you do that? And then creativity or adaptability is super important as a ball handler as well, because defenses throw different things at you, especially if you're a great scorer. Like, you're going to get stuff thrown at you all the time that you might not expect or that catches you by surprise. So how well can you be creative in different situations? The defender comes a W, or a defender helps off early, or your defender guards you a different sort of way than you're used to seeing. How well can you adapt to that in the moment? How creative are you at solving that problem? And if you can solve problems at a high level, you're going to be able to score at a high level. So things to think about when it comes to ball handling. When it comes to finishing, the ability to control your body. So different up and unders. Can you finish on the way up, on the way down? When your momentum is not taking you towards the basket, can you still finish? Finishing at high speeds. So this is something that I think a lot of players don't work on enough, is they don't work on being downhill at top speed and still being able to place the ball where they want it. Really important skill to have. Again, especially as somebody who scores a lot, it's going to be harder for you to do that. Defense is going to make it harder, so you can't be limited by speeds, right? Being able to finish through contact matters a ton. Again, especially as a scorer, when you have people draped on you, heavy help, doubles coming, can you finish through contact? Because you're not going to get every single call. It's just no ref is going to call everything. So you've got to be able to still finish through the defenses you're going to see. And then, being able to hit floaters, your touch around the rim, that's really, really important as well. So when it comes to finishing, those are micro skills that you've got to have, you've got to add to your game. These are pretty much universal ones that every player needs regardless of play style. And then shooting. Let's talk micro skills for that. So number one, the ability to make open catch and shoot threes at about a 40% clip. Can you do that? That to me is like the most foundational offensive skill. It's just, can I make open catch and shoot threes at about 40%? Right? Contested ones, you're not going to make probably at that high level. But if I can make open ones at about 40% of the time, you can be elite as a shooter. And again, if you want to be a 20 points per game scorer, you've got to be elite at something. And for a lot of players, the only option is shooting, because a lot of y'all ain't tall and you're not that athletic. So you got to be able to make shots. Number one thing that matters, can I make those open catch and shoot threes? Number two, when it comes to micro skills or shooting, is your ability to make imperfect shots. That's really, again, matters when you're a great scorer, because you're not going to get a ton of clean looks. Against a good defense that's well coached, you just won't get a lot of clean stuff. So are you able to still make shots when the pass isn't great? Are you able to make that when there's a closeout that's pretty good contest? Are you able to make it when you might not catch the ball super clean, or your feet might not be super prepared? Can you still make the shot regardless? That really matters a ton when it comes to shooting the ball and being an elite shooter. Is you got to be able to make imperfect shots. The third thing when it comes to shooting is just your ability to shoot off of the dribble out of different actions. So ball screens, handoffs, being able to, get the pull-ups after, maybe a shot fake on a closeout, or, maybe you're driving, attacking a closeout and they over-recover to the paint and you kind of stop and are able to get to a shot right there. Can you hit those sorts of shots as well? I think that's really important. Again, especially depending on what position you play. If you're a point guard and you're in ball screens all the time, got to be able to make shots out of that. And then the last thing, tying that all together, can you do that as the focal point of a defense? If you're scoring 20 a game, you're the focal point. They're saying, we got to stop this person if we want a chance to win. Like, that's the thought. Can you do these things when you are the game plan? That is the hardest part about being someone who consistently scores at those levels. You got to be able to handle that, and it's hard to do. So going along with that, with those micro skills, is just decision making. So understanding what you do well and what you want and how that impacts the team. And eventually you're going to find your niche. You're going to find what works for you. And you're going to find, okay, how do I get mine in a way that's going to benefit my team in a positive way? And that's really how you become that 20 points per game scorer. Because if you find ways to score points, but it doesn't impact winning at a high level, it doesn't put your team in a better position, you ain't going to score consistently, because your team's not going to let you, because you're not helping them. So you've got to find out what you do well. Again, if you're an elite shooter, okay, I've got to make sure that I'm ready for these shots. Like, I got to go and hunt the things that I know that I do well. If you're someone who's a really good athlete and you're more of a slasher, okay, how do you hunt those opportunities? So you've got to have these skills, but you also got to know, when is it important for me to use that? When are my, again, going back to opportunities, when are my opportunities to do these things? So last thing I'll say when it comes to skills is you also have to have just a different level of confidence too. So how sure are you in your ability to be successful? I think that's the best way to put it, right? That's all confidence is. It's just your belief that you can be successful in the situation that you're in. If you've been successful in a situation over and over again, you're going to be confident. If you, let's say, there's a gas station 2 minutes down the street from your house and you drive there every day to, get some candy, and you've done it 100 times. On the 101st time, you'd be pretty confident in your ability to get in your car and drive to the gas station and get what you need and come back because you've done it 100 times. It's the same thing when it comes to basketball. If you've done something over and over again, you're going to feel really confident doing it again. So can you build that to a high level, and how does that get impacted when you miss a couple shots? Like, you start a game off poorly, you turn the ball over, right? Is that confidence something that's unwavering? Because you need that to be at that level if you want to be an elite scorer on a consistent basis. So, when you make a mistake or your coach rips you, your teammate rips you, like, are you able to stay steady and still attack every possession with that confidence that's required? That's super important. So all of that plays into being a great player. And, if you want to be someone who's capable of pushing 20 points per game, these are some of the micro skills that you have to be focusing on. You just have to have them, right? It requires you to be an elite player. Like, scoring 20 a game is not for everybody. It's not for good players. It's for elite players. That's what your goal has to be. That's what your standard has to be for yourself. Make sure you guys click the top link in my description below to get my free program that's going to touch on a lot of these skills. So you guys can go grab that. And going along with that, we're also running a sale this week on all of our programs. So from the day this comes out through probably Friday or Saturday, there's going to be a sale going on, 20% off of all the programs. So the perimeter score system, which is just a program that basically is targeting your ability to be a perimeter player, shooting, ball handling, finishing, different sorts of scoring situations. And there's so much else included with that. A ton of stuff on confidence, basketball IQ. So there's that. There's the elite shooter system. And again, like I said, the number one thing that matters is, can you hit open catch and shoot threes at 40%? If you can do that, you give yourself a lot of opportunities to be a great scorer. If you can't, that's something you got to fix as quick as possible. So the elite shooter system goes hard after that. And then elite ball handling 2.0 as well, which is going to help you take your ball handling to a completely new level. And there's a couple other things that are included with that as well. But that's going to be linked down in the description below. Again, 20% off for the next few days. So go check that out. Now that summer's coming to a close, we're heading into the preseason. So for most of you, you've got maybe 10 to 12 weeks of like solid time left to prepare yourself for the season. For some of you, it might be less. So make sure that what you're doing right now is maximizing your time so that when the season gets here in the not so distant future, you're prepared to go. So again, everything is going to be linked down below. So I encourage you to check all that out. Drop a like, subscribe if you're new. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.